welcome to the recorder going. All right, beautiful. Welcome to the Housing and Community Development Acts Committee and Mental Health Board joint meeting. It is Thursday, November 7th, 2019. Calling the meeting to order. Both committees have a quorum present, each of the respective committees. Most of what we're going to be doing tonight is hearing presentations from applicants. The first item on the agenda, however, is an action item that doesn't directly relate to the applicants that are on the agenda. But we did have a situation where a couple of applicants wished to turn in applications after the deadline. So Ms. Sales and myself conferred, and we wanted to have the committee make a decision on that. So the request is whether or not to accept late applications. I had some thoughts on that. We have had situations in the past where applicants have made an error. Well, they've made, yes, and I think we've had, that's not been allowed. But we've had situations where there have been interim steps. So in other words, you might have missed a meeting leading up to the application deadline, or maybe a letter of intent is late. But again, those are all kind of interim steps leading up to the deadline date. And so there is this request. I can kind of share my deeper thoughts on it, but anybody wish to comment on whether we would be willing to accept late applications?
The reason? Is it what they need help with or not?
I think it's not like somebody got hit by a bus, thank God, but
Administrative error?
I think it seems to be more of an administrative nature.
I remember with the first, well, the one that I recall, sorry.
Do you have a mic? Yeah, thanks.
The situation I recall was actually someone in the second ward, and for whatever reason, they were having issues with the computer in submitting right at that last hour. So the question is, you can make excuses to why it took so long, but it sort of made sense, and it was just an administrative error that could have been tracked on the computer. So I don't know if it was just an oversight or just something to help us understand the nature of the why, right?
Right, and again, it's my personal opinion, but to me, it's a competitive process, right? So it's more analogous to opening bids for a project.
Right.
So again, there are these interim steps. The staff has been working with the applicants for a period of time, so there shouldn't be any confusion on what the deadline is, right? I mean, you work with them for weeks and weeks, and and so that's my inclination.
Well, was it the last meeting where we had, yes, it was the last meeting. And I think there were several members of the committee who aren't here this evening who had expressed really strong views that those two instances would be the last ones that they would accept coming in late. And I think there were some I think both of them, one was a new organization applying or a new director, and the other one I think was a one-day late event or some relatively minor issue. So I agree, and actually the bidding aspect of it was discussed, and that other members of the board felt that, of the Cdbg felt that it was a competitive process, and that was an aspect of it, that you would comply with all of the deadlines, to be fair to everybody else.
Right.
So can I ask, how long after the deadline did they make contact with staff to?
One agency made contact the following day. The next agency made contact within the week. Applications were due on Monday.
I guess I'm just wondering, sorry, why wasn't this included with at the last meeting then? What was the
This happened after the last meeting.
It happened after the last meeting.
The application deadline was the 10th.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm like left-handed, so
Well, I mean, if you're looking at fairness, the Mental Health Board did approve a late submission for one of the agencies this year. 3 weeks ago? Understanding what happened with the agency. So it seems to me if we're going to approve one agency, we should look at reasons for and think about approving the other two.
Okay. Was that an application deadline, or was that one of the interim steps, out of curiosity?
It was
Because
the
it was in-
application
Yeah.
deadline.
It was interim?
Yeah.
It's not the application.
Jessica, was that the same? We had a mental health board vote and then HCBA had a vote and it was about the same agency, right?
It was.
Right. And both boards voted to allow them to continue, but I think it related to the letter of intent.
Yep.
Right.
Deadline.
Yeah, not the application.
I mean, I thought it was the application.
No, because that wasn't due till after our last meeting.
Yeah, those were letters of intent. They were late. So we have a number of steps that come into play before the actual deadline for the application. So again, in my mind, I can see agencies that are working through the process, but in the process and participating, sort of like you're working up to end of the race. And to me, barring something particularly compelling.
Well,
Yeah, I think
perhaps
you
we
should-
should ask what the reasons were.
Thank you.
I don't think, I think it's just,
Thank you.
they just missed the deadlines, but again, it was, I understand that it wasn't something like, again, somebody was harmed or, physically prevented from doing it.
If I can
Yeah,
add
go
my
ahead.
take, I feel like at the mental health board in previous years, if we've had agencies come in, we've kind of just said, okay, what's the reason? They've gotten up and spoken, and we've all expressed our support for the agencies, and we've always approved it. This time, I feel a little differently because I was in the position of chair, and I actually got to see the amount of staff time that goes into processing these late applications, and I was quite amazed. I think Jessica and I probably had 6 or 7 phone calls and emails back and forward. It had to go to the legal department. So seeing the amount of staff time and all the nuances to make sure that the process is fair, it really just shows that it's quite an involved process. So I understand the challenges of getting deadlines in. We all support the agencies, we all want the best for the agencies, but I'm wondering at what point we have to have a more firm stance and recognize that the deadline is there for a reason, especially so we aren't appearing to show any favoritism or preference to agencies. But I just wanted to say that, but that in no way negates our recognition of the great work that agencies are doing and how important the funding is.
I couldn't agree with that more. But everybody else got theirs in on time, and that's, again, it's because it is a competitive process, and it's not a surprise. It's not like people didn't expect this deadline to be there. And I don't know, I'm an attorney, and I have deadlines all the time. And, if it's something super important, I do it the day before, just because I don't want to risk it. So that's my inclination. Sue?
As someone who constantly is also applying for grants or being aware of it, you are aware of the deadlines and review process and constantly having to give people deadlines in advance so you can make, I think, that we do need to take a stance and we need to have a firm, moving forward. We said that we would not make any additional exceptions because if you make one exception, people are going to constantly ask for exceptions too.
Right. And, built into the process, there aren't any exceptions. As co-chairs, we didn't think it was fair to the staff to put them in the position of, being the final word, so to speak, without having some input from us. I thought it was more appropriate that we would, give the directive, whatever that directive is, or at least to clarify that. So that's why we're, discussing it amongst ourselves. Sorry to make you all wait, but yeah, that's my thought. So I guess I'll, if there aren't comments, is there a motion to allow for the late applications?
I'd like to get a better I mean, this may sound like a weird process, but I think for the applicants that are here, if there's a consensus to hear it from those that turned it in on time, I know that seems a little bit awkward, but that to me seems like very fair. But I would like to know why. So if
Yeah.
we're going to entertain the question, I think there should be a.
They're not on the agenda tonight, I don't think they're here unless I'm just not recognizing them.
If they're not here, then.
Oh, one of them is. Okay.
We don't know who, okay.
So, my intention was not to put anybody on the spot, so, and it's more of a policy question as opposed to
I see what you're saying.
like directly relating to a specific agency.
Fair enough.
So again, I didn't want to put anybody under the gun. Again, the question is, do we want to deviate from the rule? If we are going to deviate from the rule, then that requires further conversation, but if we're not going to deviate, then we don't need to take it any further.
Well, I think, listening to the two chairs, and I have not ever been a chair of our committee, so I do think hearing the amount of effort that the city staff had to put in, and that the fact that the legal department needed to be involved, indicates the gravity to which we need to adhere to the process that we have here. And so I think, unfortunately, once again, without fully recognizing the value of these agencies to our city, but I also think that in fairness to everyone who does comply, and in all of our work lives, we have deadlines, that I don't think that we should accept these. And I say that with a lot of sadness and heavy heart, but I do think that the process is very clear, and people do work with the staff all the time, and that if there had been some issue, then perhaps giving the staff some warning about it, or asking for some additional help would have been useful. That might have been understandable, but I think in this sense, the fact that then the staff had to put in a lot of extra time, rather than working on the issues that they're supposed to work on, to me, is an example of why we need a firm deadline. And then we just stop at that point. Just like we do with bid applications, it's final. And a lot of that is to do with the fairness of the process to every other applicant.
Okay. Because we are separate bodies, I think we'll have to entertain both of them, like you guys and us. And when would you like to make a motion to reaffirm the deadline?
I know this is my burden. Did they reach out to staff? I mean, that was kind of what I was looking for, an explanation. Do you know if,
Yeah, and so what as chairs, what we did was we had the staff get the paperwork and collect the materials in the event that there was going to be an acceptance, just so that everybody would be ready, but with the condition that the respective bodies would have to, waive the requirement. So without waiver of the requirement, they wouldn't proceed. But the staff did collect the information from the respective applicants.
What was the question, did they reach out before the deadline?
Yeah, that was
Right.
yes.
They did not reach out before the deadline and say we're going to miss it.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. Yeah.
Then I will make the motion that we decline to accept the two applications.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of declining to accept for the application past deadline? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and then you want to do yours yourselves? Because you're a separate body.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna vote separately. Okay. Do I have a motion to decline accepting late applications? I can,
You can move it.
yeah, I'm gonna move it. Okay. I guess that's a no. Okay. What should I say now?
So wait,
Do you have a
you
second?
motioned and there was no second?
No.
Okay.
So on our end, it
let's make a
fails.
motion to accept late applications.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the late applications?
I will, sorry.
Okay. Do I have a second?
No, second.
Okay. All those in favor?
What is the motion?
The motion is to accept the application.
We're torn.
It's like, honestly, it's like,
Yeah, we're all
it's incredibly difficult.
It is.
Yes,
It's-
okay,
it's really-
okay.
It's not an easy vote at all.
Yeah. But we
Okay.
have a room full of people that, did
Yeah.
make the deadline.
Right.
And people are going to go home empty-handed, so that's unfortunate too.
Okay, so it's, is there an application to, is there a movement to decline? And then there was no answer to that. So the next question is there a motion to accept the late applications? And is there a second? Okay.
Is everyone clear on what you're asked to vote on?
Yes.
And you're affirming you do understand?
I think it's more a matter of
Reluctance,
what
okay.
to do, yeah.
Just for
right.
clarification.
Yeah,
Mhm.
torn about that. But can we go back to the original? I feel, my
First one.
opinion is that I will support what you think, because you're the one who's really very involved in this.
So the motion that I stated at the start was a motion to decline the late
Yeah.
applications.
Yes, that's fine. All right,
So I'll move that, and if there's a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, and then do we do a voice vote on that, Jessica?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. If there are any dissent, can we go one by one, please?
Okay.
Okay, so this is, we're declining now.
This is
Declining. I support that.
Okay.
I said no.
Okay.
Abstain.
Okay.
I'll support it.
Yeah. And I'm in favor.
It's a very difficult situation. Everybody is a valued community partner, and it puts us all in a challenging situation. So, but everybody will be back next year. Thank you all for your patience for, putting yours aside for the moment. And now, without further ado, we will get through our agenda of the applications. The first one is Books and Breakfast, the Books and Breakfast program. Welcome. And please tell us who you are, and also a way that people who might be watching or watching the tape can get in touch with your organization if they're interested in learning more.
Great, thanks very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Kim Hammack. I'm the Executive Director of Books and Breakfast, and I'm joined here tonight with Tasha Triplett, our Associate Director of Programming, and our Kingsley Site Director. Our contact information, my phone number to reach me, 847-477-0716. Our website is www.booksbreakfast.org. My email, kimh@booksbreakfast.org, and our mailing address, 419 Greenwood Street in Evanston, 60201. First, thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you for this chance to tell you a little bit more about Books and Breakfast. At Books and Breakfast, our mission is to advance educational equity in partnership with District 65 schools. We offer a before-school program offering a healthy morning meal and homework help to students who have been identified as needing additional support. Our goal every day is that kids who come to Books and Breakfast will enter their classrooms really ready for learning. So ready physically, ready emotionally, and ready academically for what waits for them in the classroom. In addition to our morning program, our excellent staff team takes time to build the school community, building relationships with parents, building relationships with teachers, looking to bring outside resources into the local school so that we increase access for our students and our families. And our vision is that every child in Evanston will be seen as a valued and included member of the school community, and that every child will be able to reach their full potential as a student here in Evanston. First, I want to say thanks for your past support. In 2019, you partnered with us, and we were able to launch a new site. We were able to bring the program to Lincoln Elementary School and add another 20 to 25 students to our roster. I got to talk to a couple of kids about what difference that has made for them, and I wanted to tell you what they said. So I talked with a third grade student a couple months ago, and I said, what difference has B&B made to you? And third grade boys aren't necessarily the most talkative or articulate, but this little boy said, you know what, before I didn't have anyone to help me with my homework, and it felt like I was in a dark room all by myself. And I said, so what difference does it make having Books and Breakfast in the morning? He goes, oh, it's like a rainbow. So it was really profound for a third grade boy to articulate it in that way. Another student said, I like Books and Breakfast because I belong here. That is our vision for what we want to do in Evanston schools. We want to create community and a place of relationship building where every student has that sense of care and connection that empowers them to go into the classroom. I think and I believe that our mission, our values, and our methods really fall in line with your funding priorities as groups. For the Mental Health Board, I see again and again your commitment to trauma-informed care. and to mental and emotional well-being. That's our key strategy in the work that we do. Before anything else, we want to be providing a place where connection, emotional and relational connection, takes precedence over everything else. We know that our students are experiencing all types of challenges and trauma. Even today, Tasha and I were just talking about students that, at her site, that came in talking about, 4 of them, talking about a parent in their life that was not at home, and either for short-term reasons or for long-term reasons, and talking about the impact of that. And Books and Breakfast this morning became a place for children to talk to one another, and then for an older student to put their arm around a younger student and say, it's okay, I know how you feel. And then for Tasha to support those students in a way that received that, acknowledged that, and then still empowered them as they walked into class. We understand that our children are coming in with significant challenges, and we believe that our commitment to relationship building and connection builds safety, builds trust, and that has impact when kids walk into the classroom. And for Cdbg, this idea that Evanston should be a livable community where everyone benefits from that, and especially recognizing who's been underrepresented and who has had fewer and less access to those resources, wanting to make a livable and equitable community. We share that value system with you. We want our school communities to be just that, where we recognize how institutionalized racism and the disparities that come between race and economics are leading us to desperate outcomes, and they benefit some more than others all the time. We want to push back on that in a way that our school communities truly are inclusive and really thriving for all of our family members, especially for folks who are often left out of those outcomes and that success. Our proposal before you asks 2 things of you. It asks for you to consider what we are already doing. Last year we had over 150 students in the program working at 4 elementary schools. We want to ask you to partner with us to keep those sites thriving. We are in a season of growth as an organization. We have multiple schools inviting us to bring the program, and we want to meet that need, but we can't do that if we can't responsibly sustain what we've already started and build trusting relationships with folks we've already started programming with. So we want to ask you to join with us by the funding being distributed through all of our sites and supporting our staff team. We also want to ask you to help us grow. We've been invited to go to Haven Middle School this year, and we feel like it's a great opportunity for what we do. Your funding will help us be able to do that. Work with us. And in addition, it could help us create a new position of a parent resource liaison that can help our staff connect our families to resources when our families are in crisis. So that would really increase our ability to serve families better. What I want to leave you with is just a picture of what makes us unique. We are the only before-school program offering holistic care for students with this mission of equity. We target systemic gaps in our resources. We have schools that do not offer a breakfast program, and yet kids who would qualify for that. We have schools that do not have accessible out-of-school time tutoring and homework support. Especially our schools that serve the 5th Ward have definite disproportionate impact in that regard. In addition, we are one of the few programs serving kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade students out of school time. The last thing that makes us unique is the community that we are trying to build. 150 students, 175. 98% of our students are students of color. 96% of them qualify for free and reduced lunch. 100% of them are Evanston residents. We have over 200 family members supporting those kids in partnership with us. 75 or more teachers, District 65 is partnering with us. 150 community volunteers, 30 Northwestern students. When you add all those groups up together, it's over 600 people actively engaged in seeing Evanston become a community where all children are valued and supported. We want to ask you, as leaders in the city of Evanston, to join with us and continue to increasing ways to that end. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Ms. Moreau?
Kim, I just wanted to ask about the 2 things you said on your application that were challenges for basically all the kids that are on the wait list.
Sure.
So you mentioned about you were trying to work with the District 65 on the bus for the 5th Ward. Can you just give a little more context about that?
Sure, and it's a work in progress. We haven't moved that forward in the way that I would like. If you're familiar with the way that the 5th Ward has been districted, it has really been separated into 5 different elementary school districts. So students in the 5th Ward will go to Dewey, Orrington, Willard, Kingsley, and Lincolnwood. None of those most of those schools aren't walkable for any of those children. And none of the schools that they're districted to actually qualify for Title I funding. So there's a breakdown in the resources serving children that live in the Fifth Ward from the get-go. There is busing provided to get to school by 9:05, but not an early school bus and not a late school bus, which means that those students who live farther away from the schools that they're districted to have multiple barriers in reaching that.
So how are we gonna get them 3 by 8?
So most of our students provide their own transportation, and some of them can walk. To Dewey, that's possible for some. For Kingsley, it's possible for some. I just had a conversation with a leader in the district that's asking and wants to bring this to the school board because they feel like it's a systemic and it's a long-standing issue of equity that hasn't been remedied. So I don't have the answer for you. It's a high cost to provide an early school bus, but I think it's important to recognize.
Okay. And then my other question was just about the space in the schools.
Sure.
About you mentioned that I mean I know principals are. I know space is at a premium.
Yes.
So how are you managing that growth?
Yeah, so we work in District 65 buildings. We feel like everything we do needs to be based in that building. That's what we're trying to grow, is that sense of community and school in that building. We are dependent on the rooms that are available to the principal, and so every year that's a conversation. So far, we've had great relationships and partnerships with principals that are working hard to provide the right space for us and bigger spaces for us. So we're not exactly where we want to be, but we feel like we are meeting the majority of students that are being recommended to the program.
So is it mostly classrooms, or are you using like the multi-purpose rooms, or I'm just trying to get a sense of
And
how.
Dewey, we're in the multi-purpose room, which is the largest room in the whole school building, which allows us to have a roster of 60. At Lincolnwood, we are in the art room. Kingsley and at Lincoln, we're in the library. Those are great spaces, and we bring in tables and we bring in chairs and we bring everything to feed breakfast and then move it back on out. That is a hard ceiling for us in terms of there's only so much limited space.
Yeah.
But so far, we feel like we've really made the best of that. And really, it goes to the partnership and the commitment of our principals that are committed to making sure that we have enough space to meet what they want to see happen in their buildings. Yeah. We'd like more, but it's good.
I did want to ask why Books and Breakfast isn't at any of the Title I schools,
Sure.
and why a middle school would be targeted before some of the other elementary schools.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So we have one of the things that we did want to target was the gaps in resources. So we wanted to target kids who would qualify financially for additional resources, but are in buildings that do not qualify for them. So at Dewey, we started at Dewey because it did not have any access to a morning meal. That's why we went to Lincolnwood. So there's a gap, and it's a systemic gap. It does not mean that there's not additional need at Oakton or at Washington or at Dawes, but it felt like the primary place we were supposed to start. And we kept having a similar question with other principals saying, I have 30% of my student population that really needs additional resources, but I don't have them in my building. So it's a specific mission in targeting that. But as we grow, we're being asked by Title I schools who don't actually have programming, especially programming that impacts kindergarten, first and second graders. That's a need. It's on our list, and our hope is to continue to grow and continue to add a school a year so that we can eventually get to Title I schools. Haven specifically was interesting to us because it is the school that shows that gap in incomes more than anywhere else. There are over 200 children in Haven who qualify for free or reduced lunch and no district breakfast. There aren't the additional programs that would come from Title I funding into that building, and it's been that way for a really long time. So it feels like it's been overlooked for a really long time, and there's no other organization targeting that gap in resources. So it felt like consistent with our mission of targeting those gaps and bringing attention to that lack of equity. And we have had an incredible amount of welcome and invitation from teachers and principals and parents that want to see us there, quickly.
Just a suggestion, I do think if you could get Bessie Rose Magnet School on your radar.
Yeah.
You know, they have their incoming, or their, kindergarten and first grade now, that are all tweet. And
Yes.
so that there would be that need there. And then I do know that quite a bit of Fifth Ward kids are bused to Bessie Rose.
Thank you, and I have heard, I've had a couple people reach out from Bessie Rhodes. It falls into that same category. There being financial need there, but not high enough to qualify for those additional benefits. Thank you for the question.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have Family Focus After School Program. Hi, how are you?
Good evening, and thank you for having me here this evening to talk about Family Focus Evanston. I'm Colette Allen. I'm Center Director for Family Focus Evanston. We're located at 2010 Dewey Avenue here in Evanston. Our phone number is 847-475-7570. Our website, www.family-focus.org/Evanston. And I have with me this evening Mark Brown, who is Director of Government Grants and Contracts. Most of you are very familiar with Family Focus. We've been in Evanston for 44 years, and we serve families with a holistic approach. We start with age 0 all the way up to adulthood. We take a holistic approach. We have an early childhood program serving families with children 0 to 3. We serve families in crisis with a DCFS program where we educate the parents, we provide advocacy, and we also supervise visitations. Grandparent support group for grandparents raising grandchildren. We have a food pantry and a clothes closet. And this evening, I'm talking about our after-school and summer camp programs. You have supported us for many, many years, and we appreciate it. And we would love your continued support. We serve those children that Kim talked about, those children who are bused out of the 5th Ward and go to schools outside of their community. We try to wrap our arms around them and provide them with a safe environment and love and support. We have children who have lost parents to gun violence and the prison system. We have recently seen an increase in families struggling with homelessness and food insecurity. Right now, we are serving 60 students in our after-school program, and we provide homework support and enrichment activities to enhance academic and life experiences. We are very proud to say that more than 90% of our students have stayed at or above grade level in reading, and 90+% have participated in STEM activities at Family Focus. Thanks to the support of the Mental Health Board and Cdbg, we have amazing partnerships, and the list grows. Our collaboration with Evans STEM and our own STEM committee provides amazing STEM activities for our students. We have Science Saturdays, and students from Northwestern's McCormick School of Engineering provide mentoring to the students once a month. This year, they're working on pinball machines. That's the challenge this year. We continue our partnership with the Museum of Science and Industry. The museum provides training for our staff, plus all the materials for the children to do amazing STEM activities, and it includes 2 field trips to the museum every year. Science and Society of Northwestern also does science clubs with our students. And then we are very proud of the partnership that we have with Northwestern School of Education and Social Policy and the YMCA. I'm sure many of you have heard of Metamedia at the YMCA on Lake. Well, now we have Metamedia at Foster. So that provides opportunities for the kids in the 5th Ward to come to Family Focus and participate in a makerspace. There are 3D printers and laser cutters and sewing machines that are computerized and machines that make t-shirts. So they are doing amazing things right at Family Focus. Our partnership with Evanston Food Exchange has grown. It is now known as the Foster Street Urban Agricultural Program. And in addition to kids learning gardening and community service, entrepreneurship, they are also learning about careers in agriculture. We reinforce literacy skills with a longtime volunteer through poetry and writing. For 2 years in a row, our students have won statewide poetry contests sponsored by the Illinois Council Against Handgun Violence. The list of activities can go on and on and on. We have Math Mondays, where a volunteer high school math teacher for Evanston Township comes in every Monday and works with the kids on math. Beacon Academy students, art students, are returning for the 3rd year to teach art to our students. We have dance with the Identity Dance Troupe. Now, last year I told you about a partnership we were doing with the North Shore Mental Health Association. I got a lot of flack about that because they didn't think that middle school students would be interested in a curriculum about mental health. Wrong. It was the most popular class we had. They taught the kids how to identify stress and depression and gave them tools to handle it. They loved the yoga and the meditation and the essential oils and cooking healthy food. It was a great success, not only with the kids, but with the parents, because we had sessions with the parents as well. And we will do it, we did it this past summer and we are doing it again this year. One of our most popular partnerships is YES, or YES. It is the brainchild of 2 tennis fanatics here in Evanston that are part of Evanston Tennis Association. They come in twice a week. The first hour is tutoring with the students. They have built a cadre of volunteers that provide one-on-one tutoring for our kids, Mondays and Tuesdays for an hour. The second hour is free tennis lessons with tennis rackets and balls and everything the kids need. New this year, we have a partnership with Northwestern University with a group called Mini Chefs. They come in every week and teach the kids cooking skills. When I left this evening, the students met for the first time a staffer from Evanston Public Library who will be coming every week. One week she will do a book club with e-readers. The next week she'll do arts and crafts. We also partnered with the Youth and Young Adult Division of the city. We were experiencing a lot of violence on the campus that we share with Fleetwood Jourdain. The kids were coming, it was like ground zero. And there were a lot of fights. And I reached out to them and they created Season of Peace. They used our students and the students from Fleetwood Jourdain to form a steering committee. And the hope is that we will have 100 days of peace. We're at about 50 right now, and hopefully by the end of the year. And we've had no fights, and the kids have been very good at monitoring their peers to say no fighting, because they want that party at the end of the year. I want to tell a brief story of how the support of our community grows and creates unique programming for our children. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Betty Esther. She's been around a long time. She's been a long-time volunteer at Family Focus and volunteers at the center 3 days a week. During a conversation, I found out that she's quite a seamstress. And I said, would she do a quilting project with the middle school kids? And in typical Betty style, she did the quilt. She had the kids go on the computer and identify a black scientist or engineer or artist, and the kids did a representation on a patch, and they sewed their patches on this beautiful kente cloth. That was the first year. Second year, she did a similar project with the elementary kids. Then she saw that we were getting old sewing machines, so she decided to start a sewing class for the kids. And she attracted a few kids, and they were using sewing machines that still had the knee pedal and all of that. And then she started recruiting volunteers. She recruited individuals like Jane Cullerton and Paula Haynes and members of the Unitarian Church. The volunteers raised money from the Kiwanis to purchase more sewing machines and new sewing machines, and the Unitarian Church pitched in to buy fabric. Now we have 2 sessions a week accommodating 16 kids. And yes, some of them are boys. A young man came to me and showed me the hoodie he created last week. Weekly, more volunteers join to help the students and to hone their own skills. We even had an all-day Saturday session of sewing with the kids because the kids wanted to finish their projects. With your support, we will continue to provide a safe environment and the kind of quality program that Ms. S. and so many of our partners provide for our students.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Okay. Thank you, and thank you for everything you're doing.
Okay,
Wonderful.
thank you.
And the next on the list is the James B. Moran Center, the Center for Youth Advocacy. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here, first of all. My name is Kristen Kennard. I am the Deputy Director and Director of Social Work Services at the Moran Center for Youth Advocacy. We are located newly at 1900A Dexter Street in Evanston. You can reach us at 847-492-1410. Our website is www.moran-center.org. And you can reach our main email at contact@moran-center.org. The Moran Center has built our services around ameliorating injustices that have sidelined and marginalized Evanston youth and their families.
Hold on one second. There's a strange, like,
I'm gonna get someone.
I just wanted to distract you from what you're saying. It's almost like there's a random microphone sitting somewhere.
Should we have ways on too?
These are all this one.
I was worried that it was the actual podium mic.
I tried getting disconnected and
I
then
think,
share.
so it seems to have stopped, I guess. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, let's keep going. So I apologize for that. I
Not a
just want to
problem.
make sure everybody can hear what you're saying, and there was clearly some noise going on. Thank you, sorry about that.
So Moran Center has built our services around ameliorating injustices that have sidelined and marginalized Evanston youth and their families of color for far too long. Our vision is to close the justice gap and advance equity in the courtroom, in the classroom, and in the community. To do that, we have multiple programs to advance equity. When the Moran Center provides free legal assistance through our school-based civil legal clinic, we help to stabilize the family.
Well, this one.
Well, this one. Or I'll put it, if it's just.
Slide over here. It just happens to be the light. Let's just try this one. You guys are doing all the talking, so it's important you guys have a good week.
If you want to grab it, but,
Okay.
oh, wasn't it? You might not button, no.
Yeah, there's a little button on it to push. That was the bad one. All right. All right, sorry about that. Okay.
No problem. Okay. When the Moran Center provides free legal assistance through our school-based civil legal clinic, we help to stabilize the family so children can stay on track in school. When we successfully represent youth or young adults in the courtroom who in an impulsive moment make a mistake, we follow up with counseling to address the traumatic wounds and case management to provide resources to a family in need, with the hope that that youth then has a chance to redirect his path forward. When our education advocacy attorneys advocate for a child in school to get specialized instruction and support, services that he needs to make progress, then that student builds confidence and learns growth. When we partner with other Evanston agencies, such as Evanston CASE, to train parent partners to go into schools and provide support and guidance to caregivers as they attend stressful IEP meetings on behalf of their child with special needs, then the caregiver feels more confident in advocating for their own child's educational rights and are better equipped to secure improved outcomes for their child. When we create safe spaces for Evanston police officers and disconnected youth of color to engage in authentic dialogue, peace circles, and activities together through Project Bridge, we create a safer and more peaceable community by building a more informed police force and giving youth voices value. The Moran Center's impact isn't only felt by the individuals and families that we serve, but also by the systems that we change. As a part of the Roger Pascal Restorative Justice Initiative, the Moran Center successfully advocated for and is currently helping to implement the City of Evanston's new administrative hearing process for juveniles as a restorative and supportive off-ramp from the criminal justice system. The Moran Center led the charge in codifying retail theft and theft under $500 within the city code, thus diverting individuals from the criminal justice system and from an arrest on their record, and providing youth with constructive options to repair the harm that they may have caused through that incident. With a grant from Evanston Cradle to Career, the Moran Center has convened 8 youth-serving agencies in Evanston, now known as the Evanston Collective, who are presently engaged in an effort to improve Evanston's social safety net with social service agencies and develop a culturally attuned and seamless fabric of support for our community's youth and their families. Through ongoing collaboration with both Evanston school districts, we have helped to move the needle toward more restorative student disciplinary practices, thus resulting in fewer school suspensions and more time in the classroom. Consistent with the Mental Health Board's 2020 funding priorities, our social workers provide trauma-informed therapy and case management to promote mental and behavioral health of all of the youth we serve in our legal programs. Social workers develop therapeutic relationships with clients and their families in order to support social, emotional, and developmental needs. When youth and young adults are in crisis, our social workers respond day or night. Our education advocacy program reached capacity this last year. In response to the community need, we hired an additional part-time bilingual education attorney to serve clients and a part-time assistant attorney to manage intakes. We are requesting funds from Cdbg to support portions of the salaries for these legal staff. Moran Center requires the city to serve as a partner in order to support these new positions. With these funds, we propose to provide education advocacy services to 80 clients, which is a 33% increase from what we served this year, and the number of children and youth served. We also will be focusing on educational outreach efforts for parents and guardians of preschool-age children and in daycares in order to ensure the developmental and learning needs are identified early. The school-based civil legal clinic has seen tremendous growth since its launch last April 2018. Based on current demand, we propose to provide civil legal services to 160 families in 2020, which is a 166% increase. The Moran Center recently hired an additional part-time social worker to accommodate the growing demand for therapy and case management for all of our legal clients. We are therefore requesting funding from the Mental Health Board to support 89% of one full-time social worker's salary and benefits. We need the city as a funding partner to close this justice gap and in our community to leverage private funds. We're so thankful for all of the support and partnership that we've had up until now. And without these funds, the Moran Center would need to reduce services to an already marginalized youth and their families, deepening the very inequities that the City of Evanston and the Moran Center have been working so hard to zealously change. So thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I just wanted to make a comment. What always impresses me about your applications and your presentation is the thing that we look for is how funds are going to build capacity. And each year when you guys present, you say this is going to be the target, and then you come back the next year and you've done it. And that happened with the school, the civil-based clinic. So it's no surprise to me that you have that 165% increase.
Right.
Right. The other thing I wanted to note in your application was there was a position that you were hiring for, and I think there was a stipulation in there that you were like, we don't know if it's going to be an attorney or a social worker, or was there another category?
Potentially somebody with restorative justice.
Right. Yeah. So what profession was it an attorney that you ended up hiring?
It was an attorney,
cool.
yes.
Yeah. I thought that was a good piece of the application, right? So you have a skill set and I guess, professional characteristics that you're looking for, but it wasn't defined by a profession or a
More for
title.
the individual,
Right.
what they can.
What's going to fit for the
Yes.
center and the client base. So I thought that's a smart hiring choice.
Great, thank you. Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
I was interested in the budget and the corporate sponsorships. And this past year, it's been 100,000, and you're not looking at corporate sponsorships next year?
Yep, when we bring up the budget, people here, so I'll be able to answer that better than that.
I believe that, my name is Patrick Keane, I'm the Executive Director of the Moran Center. I believe that question was posed, I don't recall if it was posed by MHB or Cdbg, but in our response, we said that we had received two $50,000 fellows, one from the University of Chicago School of Law and one from Pritzker School of Law, each at $50,000 for a postgraduate one-year fellowship. We, like many legal aid agencies, seek those fellows out, and we hit the jackpot last year and we got 2. This year we got none. And so that's why that line dropped from 100,000 to 0.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Just, one of the things I'm going to be paying attention to, particularly with our agencies, is just that percentage of Evanston residents that are served. So I see the numbers on our summary. Can you just talk a little bit, just a quick high level, who are you serving outside of the community?
Sure, so all of our programs serve only Evanston residents except our expungement and sealing help desk.
Okay.
So we have the help desk at the Skokie Courthouse 2 days a week. And that serves Cook County. That was our conditions of being there and being in the courthouse, is that we have to serve anybody who was coming in from Cook County. Beyond that, all of our programs serve Evanston residents.
Thank you, that's a great answer.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good work. Thanks. Next, we have Meals on Wheels, the prevention of malnutrition and hunger through home-delivered meals program. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. I'm Debbie Genthi, the Executive Director of Meals on Wheels Northeastern Illinois. We have a new address as well, 1723 Simpson. Our web address is also new, Meals on Wheels NEI for Northeastern Illinois.org. The phone number stayed the same, 847-332-2678. As of July 1st, we changed from using the Meals at Home name to Meals on Wheels Northeastern Illinois, just because it was a whole lot easier for everyone to understand what we actually did. October of this year, we hired our first ever food service director in preparation for this new location on Simpson. The new location, bless you, was chosen because it had the bones of a kitchen that we desperately needed to begin to increase the number of people that we serve. So we moved to that new location last week, still unpacking the boxes, and planning to begin production in January of 2020. So we're in the process of getting permits, doing a lot of work with the city to make sure we have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed. Hopefully construction and equipment will move in on the heels of that, and we can still make that target date of January 1. One of the reasons it was so important to have this location, like I said, we needed to serve far more people. We've been serving 225, 250 the last couple of years and have been maxed out with all of our food providers. So trying to find a way to serve more people because the need is in the thousands. So this is something that we've been working on for quite some time. This was a very nice location for a number of reasons, not just the bones of the kitchen, but also the community that it's in. I've been meeting with Books and Breakfast and Family Focus, who you've already heard from, to find ways to make this location a community location and bring the kids in maybe to help out and to teach in some cases, but also to make sure they get a hot breakfast that morning. So just a whole lot of things going on based around this kitchen. But the reason that you all know us is because our top priority is, of course, to make sure our seniors are fed. by having control over the food that is produced, we will have better tasting food, better quality food. We're not looking for just meeting the nutritional guidelines, we're looking to exceed them. So we're actually working on a couple of different research projects. Hopefully we'll have one with Northwestern as well, but we're working on one that has to do with loneliness through University of Chicago. There have been Meals on Wheels programs in the past that have been a part of studies to look at what is it about this visit, just delivering meals, that alleviates, or what we know from other studies, that the visit alleviates loneliness to some extent, but we want to know why. So that's what this study is focused on, and I think that's pretty cool, actually. So figuring out the why of that, but also looking at nutritional intake and not necessarily, I've said, we don't necessarily want to create a control group and feed a group of people crummy food, but to be able to look at, of the research that's been done, how can we serve better meals than other programs are serving. So that's pretty exciting. We already have other Meals on Wheels programs approaching us, asking to produce food for them. These are all additional revenue streams that can help make the organization a lot more sustainable, which goes to the whole idea of producing really good food no matter what you can afford to pay. So as you know, we've had 60+% of our clients for years now who are considered low income. We make sure people get food and pay what they can. That doesn't mean it's crummy food, so still great quality. This central location also allows us to tighten things up in terms of logistics, allows us to tighten things up in terms of food safety. We want to know that that food comes fresh right off the line. We have an hour to get this delivered to people. We don't want it sitting around hoping that they eat it right away. So there are a whole lot of checks that are being put into place and things being tightened up. That eyes and ears that volunteers have always offered over the last 51 years for our program, we want to do a better job of that as well. So more computer-aided delivery systems, I guess, is the best way to put it, which is just to say it's a basic iPad where the volunteer will click the button saying delivered or not delivered and was the client okay that day. So that eyes and ears piece that's been so important all these years. But this location, like I said, also provides the ability to engage community. We'll have volunteers coming in to help with packaging, and volunteers will be able to actually taste the food that they're delivering, where all along it had to stay packaged up, of course, for food safety reasons. Now they'll be able to say, oh, you have that today, I've tasted that, that's really good. So just all those little pieces are really coming together around this location, so we're excited about it.
Any questions?
Just a quick, I said I'm going to ask everyone the same question when I see it's less than 50%. So if I'm looking at our staff summary, it says, and I just want to make sure I'm interpreting this correctly, that out of Evanston residents only make up 30% of your population?
We've grown the base, the geographic area quite a bit in the last few years. And that's one of the things that has been a positive thing, of course, because we get all these phone calls and we have to say, I'm sorry we don't deliver in that area, now we can. But yeah, it definitely pulls away and skews our numbers. Being able to serve more people, just a larger number, period. I don't know that that's necessarily going to change the percentages, but we still will be serving more Evanston people.
Right. So I say to you, and I say to all the other not-for-profits, like this particular budget season, that's something that I'm paying attention to make sure that if we're investing in taxpayer in this situation, it's federal dollars, that we know that it's going to focus on Evanston residents. So.
Right. But the number of Evanston residents will increase. It's just the percentages will stay in check. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
And next, we have Connections for the Homeless, the drop-in and outreach program. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Betty Bog. I'm the Executive Director of Connections for the Homeless. We're located at 2121 Dewey in Evanston. Our phone number is 847-475-7070. My email is bbogg@connect2home.org, and that's our website also, connect2home.org. I want to extend my deep thanks to the members of the Mental Health Board and Housing and Community Development Act Committee for considering our request to again renew our partnership by supporting Connections for the Homeless outreach and drop-in programs. We are particularly proud of this partnership because together we are serving Evanston's most vulnerable citizens. Connections outreach and drop-in programs are considered low barrier, which means that we meet every participant where they are, and regardless of their mental health status, ability to manage their substance use disorder, or any other challenge that may otherwise make them ineligible for services elsewhere. We are their safety net. And we do this work in partnership with you via support provided by the Mental Health Board and through Cdbg funding. When I was here last year, I told you that we expected to serve 275 Evanstonians through these programs. In fact, we are on track to serve nearly 500 Evanstonians this year. Thanks to our partnership, we provide Evanston's most vulnerable citizens access to basic services like food, clean clothes, showers, laundry, and physical and mental health care, while simultaneously building a relationship so that we may end their homelessness for good. Their journey can be frustratingly slow and painful, but our participants know that we are there at their side every step of the way. We stand ready to serve the man who is spending his days at the public library and nights sleeping in a parking garage, or the family with the baby who recently became homeless and who are overwhelmed by the stress of rotating between emergency rooms and police stations to find a safe place to sleep, or the elderly woman who is disabled and living in the park. These are real examples of people we know and with whom we have deep relationships. And we are seeing significantly more people than just a year ago. On average, we are now seeing approximately 4 new people every day at just one of our 2 drop-in locations. To accommodate this growing demand, Connections has also grown our service team. In the last 9 months, we hired a second outreach specialist, increased our psychiatric clinic hours, and recruited even more volunteers to help manage our spaces and connect participants to basic services. During this last year, we opened our administrative offices in the 5th Ward as a second drop-in location. In addition to our primary location of Hilda's Place at Lake Street Church, our administrative offices on Dewey Avenue are now open Monday through Friday and are accessible space for people with physical disabilities and families who can access showers, our food pantry, lunches, children's clothing, and case management services. Through this work, we are helping create a more equitable and livable Evanston for all. I think the most effective way to show the impact of this partnership is to share a story of a participant who was recently housed. Tara has multiple health challenges that were getting harder to manage whilst living on the street. She started to come to our drop-in center at the Lake Street Church nearly every day about a year ago, and our registered nurse and mental health specialist quickly built a relationship with her. They helped Tara connect to community health providers and remove barriers to health care by arranging for transportation to appointments, paying for prescriptions not covered by insurance, and helping her coordinate her care. Tara's trust in our health team led to the next step, a strong relationship with one of our community case managers who helped her complete the paperwork and assessments she needed for our coordinated entry system and to be connected to a supportive housing program. Tara was clearly very vulnerable living on the street, and she was quickly moved to the top of the housing wait list managed by our partners at the Alliance to End Homelessness in suburban Cook County. Once Tara was matched with a supportive housing unit in Evanston, she was able to move into her own apartment and end years of living on the street. Since being in her home, her health, her confidence, and her stability have dramatically improved. I see her all the time. She's doing great. Now, Tara's is a wonderful feel-good story, and I'd love to share it, but I don't want to pretend that it always works out so neatly. There are people who, regardless of how often our outreach workers visit them, bringing blankets or food and offering additional help, are not interested in engaging more deeply with us. But we will continue to check in with them and offer support and services, and eventually, when they are ready, they will allow us in. That's just the start of the hard work, but without that start, there is no happy ending. Relationships matter. They're at the heart of our work, helping people move forward on their path to overcoming homelessness. By offering our services with a non-judgmental, trauma-informed approach, we build the trust that makes those relationships and progress toward housing possible. The kind of work Connections does, where everyone has access to the most basic necessities they need to live and thrive, creates a more equitable community. We help people move beyond just meeting their survival needs to co-creating a plan for their future. We are delighted to partner with the city in this way because together we are serving all of Evanston. Thank you. Questions?
We never want to be impressed when something jumps from 275 to 500, right? When we're talking about serving this population group. But the fact that you've been able to do that is really impressive. Is that due to an increased need or just your increased capacity to serve? Like with the admin office, is it just that you have more space or?
I think there is increased need. I think also when, social services, scrappy social service agencies like ours can back ourselves into a corner if we approach things with a perspective of scarcity. And so rather than saying we can only give out 30 lunches today because that's all the lunches we have, what if we ask for people to make us more lunches? And so when we do that, we see people utilizing these services. So I believe that need was there. A lot of it was there. We've really worked on our own approach to equity and making sure that we are accessible to people in the sense that they're not going to get traumatized just by talking to us, which is not always the case with social service agencies. So I think it's a combination of factors, but certainly it's almost when you open your doors, people will come in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that approach of we've run out of space, we'll just open our admin office.
Yeah, you should come by sometime. It's really, it's awesome. Wild there sometimes.
Yeah, I bet.
We're seeing 30 people a day there, and over 60 at our Hilda's place.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your passion.
Thank you.
Next, screensaver. Okay, the Harbor, Safe Harbor Emergency Shelter. Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Terry Shevchuk, and I'm the Government Grants Manager with the Harbor. And with me this evening is Mary Burke-Peterson, Development Associate. The Harbor is requesting funds for our Safe Harbor Emergency Shelter. Our phone number is 847-297-8540, or you can email us at general@theharbor.org. Harbor is spelled H-A-R-B-O-U-R. Our web address is www.theharbor.org, and our administrative office is located at 1440 Renaissance Drive, Suite 240, Park Ridge, Illinois. First of all, I just want to thank you for your current support. This year has been our first year of funding from Mental Health Board and Cdbg, and we certainly do appreciate your partnership in addressing the community needs of youth. As you may know, the Harbor has been in the community for over 45 years, and we provide emergency shelter, transitional housing, and supportive services to homeless youth in the north and northwest suburbs. Our Safe Harbor Emergency Shelter is a 10-bed DCFS licensed group home providing short-term shelter, crisis intervention, and case management to female or female identifying youth ages 12 to 20. These youth come to our shelter after being locked out or running away to escape severe family dysfunction, parental substance abuse, or mental health issues. While in our care, we make sure youth remain in school and assess their support network for possible positive connections or eventual placements. Crisis intervention successfully reunites many minor youth with their families, but when this isn't possible, we work with the youth to locate another safe placement, which may be our own transitional housing. And even though that our request is for emergency shelter, I do want to talk a minute about our transitional housing because it's not mentioned in our application for you, and it is a critical piece of our overall approach to homelessness. Our emergency shelter is really more than just a bed. It's a safe point of entry, a gateway to longer-term permanent housing. In fact, half of the Evanston youth that we've served to date in 2019 have transferred from our shelter into our transitional housing, where they're able to stay for up to 18 months while they continue their education, secure employment, and save 65% of their earnings. Right now, these youth are in what we call phase 1 of our transitional housing, where they live in a supervised group setting. But during their last 6 months in the program, they'll transfer to what is known as phase 2, where they live in their own apartments and we provide a declining rent subsidy. While in our transitional housing, we provide an 8-hour curriculum on financial literacy to youth with groups throughout the year on topics like credit management, identity theft, banking, and tax prep and filing. Our staff helps youth develop a spending plan each week and provides monthly coaching around budgeting and saving. We monitor youth's credit scores monthly and help youth build and repair their credit. Our CPA accountant teaches a session on tax prep each year. Finally, I know that the committee had some questions on the specifics of how we have lowered our barriers to accessibility, and I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on our response to that. What we realized was that unintentionally, our previous intake process was filtering out many youth so that essentially we were really taking only the best of the homeless population, and that is certainly not in our mission. Recent drug use, suicidal ideation, and transfer from a mental health facility were all situations that previously could preclude acceptance into our shelter. Now we have a process that basically asks 2 questions. Are you within the age range that we serve? And are you female or identify as female? If those answers are yes, we bring youth in immediately to the shelter for 24 hours, where we provide food, a good night's rest, access to laundry, and clean clothes. After that, we assess for next steps. Our goal is to intervene at the start of homelessness and to alter the path for youth experiencing housing instability, regardless of what circumstances they face, because we believe that each of our youth has value and potential. We're committed to helping youth achieve this potential, and we thank you for your support in making this possible and the opportunity to apply again. Thank you.
Any questions?
Just a quick, again, standard question I'm asking everyone. So I'm looking at the summary. It shows Evanston represents 10% of your population served. And when I look through your budget, I see the different buckets that come from the city of Evanston. So just help me understand how you prioritize Evanston residents, just given the transition of all your clients coming in. I'll let you talk before I.
Sure. We have a no decline policy for all youth. So it's based on need. Youth are in need, they come to us. And as you said, approximately 10% of those youth, 10 to 15, are Evanston residents. I have to say that it has been lower in recent years, and we're working to determine why that is, while our overall utilization has continued to climb. What we provide is really an unmet need to a highly vulnerable population. We're a safety net where otherwise there would be no resource for these youth. And like I said, it's truly a gateway into long-term stability for these youth, and we believe that it's a valuable investment in the youth of the community.
Right, and so the reason that I asked the question is in no way question services that you provide. It's more just a strict budget question in terms of the dollars that are being invested in the organization. Do you receive, in looking at this, do you receive any dollars from any other municipality?
Yes, we do, yes.
Okay, where is that, is it
Townships.
in the private townships? I'm looking at it right now, I don't see it, what am I missing? Is it townships? What am I missing?
Generally, my laptop died, so I'm on my phone. Generally, I think it's broken down into a township/city's budget line.
Yes, there's a townships line and a city/county budget line.
So I'm looking right at it, I may be missing it. I see City of Evanston, look at the revenue, City of Evanston, City of Evanston, City of Evanston, IDHS, private funding, individual corps and foundations. Where am I missing?
It's page 81.
I didn't see it either.
Am I looking for it?
If you could just follow up with our staff.
Yeah, I see,
Yeah.
I see, there's 48,900 from townships, another $29,000 from other cities, or I guess the county, $200,000 from federal, and $130,000 from private contributions.
I think there's the mental health board one at the CDBG.
Oh, good, okay, I'm looking.
Yeah, our service area is quite large. It does encompass all of the north and northwest suburbs, and we do receive funding from many of those municipalities and townships. However, like I said, we do provide an unmet need to the entire north and northwest suburban community. Therefore, it's essential to have all of the support of the community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I lost my budget. So interfaith action, right? Okay, next is interfaith action, emergency overnight shelter. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for supporting us for so many years in so many different ways. And I'm losing my voice, I'm afraid. My name is Susan Murphy, and I'm the Executive Director of Interfaith Action of Evanston, and that is ia@interfaithactionofevanston.org, and our website is the same. The office is at 1004 Greenwood, but we use sites throughout downtown Evanston. Phone number is 847-869-0370. We're made up of 41 of the faith communities in Evanston. And briefly, we do the morning hospitality center at St. Mark's Church, where we have employment counseling and computer room, breakfast, and a place for people to rest. We do the soup kitchens in Evanston, either directly by Interfaith Action or by faith communities who are members of Interfaith Action. We have at least one every day. We do the warming centers in Evanston. They're afternoon centers. They open next Monday, and they'll go through March, and there's one every afternoon at different faith communities. We do the Produce Mobile, and that's been going on, I think, for 6 years, but it's at Robert Crown in partnership with the Greater Chicago Food Depository. And we serve, we get 250 to 300 people every month who get a lot of fresh produce. And for the last 9 months, we've also been doing one at Fleetwood Jourdain, and we're working with the Food Depository to see if we can continue to do that. And we do the overnight emergency shelter, and that is what we are asking for funding for. So 14 years ago, we opened an emergency overnight shelter at St. Paul's Church, and we opened when the temperature dropped to 0, so we were only open maybe 10 to 12 times a year, and we served about 20 people who would come to that. 4 years ago, 5 other faith communities joined us, and we raised the temperature to 15 degrees, and the amount of people we were serving went up as well. Last year, we planned to open the shelter whenever the temperature reached 20 degrees, and you were instrumental in helping us raise that temperature, or raise the amount of times we knew we'd be open. In November, a homeless woman died on the steps of one of our host churches. And that church said that they would make a special one-time donation so that we could open the shelter every night in memory of Daisy. And so we did, beginning in mid-December of last year. Kind of scrambled, but we got it together and we were open all winter through March. And our numbers went up. We had an average of 36 people who came because they knew we would be open each night. During the polar vortex, we had 48 people. And just as an aside, that was really crowded. We happened to be at First Press. Everybody who wanted, some of the people in Evanston sleep outside by choice. But when it was that cold, even they did not want to stay outside. And I spoke with, I don't say his name right, Ike, who's the brand new Human Services Director last week before he was that person. And we're working on a plan for the city of Evanston to help us on those nights when we have an emergency. We can handle the winter, but really we can't handle it as well when there's an emergency, so we're working on a plan together. This year, the shelter will be open on November 17th, a week from Sunday, and will be open through the end of March. Each one of the faith communities gave us 3 consecutive weeks, so it should be easier for people. They won't have to go from place to place as often. They'll have 3 straight weeks at one faith community. We have a large group of volunteers. We have 260 volunteers now that are signed up just for the overnight shelter. And we're looking for more. We have 3 volunteer shifts. From 8 to 10 at night, volunteers come in and help set up the cots. They greet the people. Our guests come in at 9 o'clock and have hot drinks and get a blanket and a cot and find out where they get to sleep. At 9:30, another volunteer comes in and spends the night. This year we're going to have 2 staff people, which is one reason the expense has increased. But because of being open every night and having more people than we had before, it's just, in my opinion, a safety issue to have 2 professional people there every night to help us with our guests. And then we also have volunteers who come in the morning to wake people and help clean up, and we're out of that faith community by 6:45. And we have just had 2 training sessions, and we'll have 2 more next week for people who would like to be volunteers. One morning last week when we had the early snowfall, one of the women who sleeps outside, unless she's lucky enough to ride the train, was looking out the window at St. Mark's at the snow and said, "I wish I had home tonight, just tonight." And everyone should have a home, not just one night, but every night. And really that is something Connections works on really well. And then one of our guests told me that people without homes in Chicago are called homeless people, and I'm sure I've called them homeless people as well. But he said, in Evanston, we are a homeless community. And my hope is that one day we can get rid of that word homeless and all be part of the same Evanston community. So thank you for helping us reach or move toward that goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to hear from the North Shore Senior Center about, I think, 3 of their programs. Grandparents raising grandchildren, social services for seniors and their families, and their behavioral health program. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, thank you. Good evening, I'm Kathy Honeywell. I am the Director of Senior and Family Services at North Shore Senior Center. And present tonight with me are Tish Rudnicki, our Executive Director, and Barbara Rudson, Grants Manager. North Shore Senior Center's headquarters is at 161 Northfield Road in Northfield, Illinois. We also have an office at 7900 North Milwaukee Avenue in Niles, and an office down the hall here at the Civic Center. We can be reached, our main number is 847-784-6000. Our website is www.nssc.org. People can reach us through the website or send an email at info@nssc.org. So tonight we're seeking support for the following programs: Grandparents Raising Grandchildren through Cdbg, social services for seniors and their families through Mental Health Board, and behavioral health programming through Mental Health Board. Would you prefer to have questions after each section or all at the end?
Maybe just all at the end, I guess, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Keep your flow going.
Helps with the flow. Okay, so our Grandparents Raising Grandchildren program, I'd like to start by saying thank you so much for your ongoing support of the Grandparents Raising Grandchildren program. This program helps some of Evanston's most vulnerable families. It began as a support group in the 1990s and has quickly grown into a comprehensive program to assist these special families made up of 25 grandparents and 87 grandchildren that range from birth to age 18. When the children graduate from high school, they graduate from the program. It features full case management, which provides ongoing counseling for emotional support and support in identifying financial resources, which could be energy assistance, farmers market, coupons, taxi assistance, referrals for legal assistance. We also utilize gap funding and between the cracks funding to help with things like bedding, clothing, emergency rent assistance, things like that. We don't exist in a vacuum. We can't serve everybody by ourselves, so we work in coordination with other organizations in Evanston. For example, we have a successful annual resource fair that we organize with Family Focus. Our grandparents program provides educational, there's an educational component that covers issues like child behavior and psychology. We talk about legal concerns, medical issues, positive parenting styles, and stress relief. And while the factual information is being disseminated during these lectures, it's valuable to the participants as they're learning these things and making social connections with other grandparents. The program also has educational activities for the kids while their grandparents are meeting. We also try to have some fun with the kids. So we have an annual summer event, a holiday party. There's also the annual resource fair, and there's gift cards to help with school supplies, respite care, and counseling. So that is the grandparents program. Social services for seniors and their families, again, we're thankful for the ongoing support of the Mental Health Board for those programs. We established and have been maintaining an office here at the Civic Center since 2016. It's staffed by our older adults benefits specialist, the senior services coordinator, a team of volunteers, and various staff from the Senior and Family Services Department that also meet people here. Our work in Evanston and surrounding communities furthers our mission to foster the independence and well-being of older adults, enhance their dignity and self-respect, and promote their participation in and contribution toward all aspects of community life. We provide outreach and case management services throughout the community. We see people in their homes, in hospitals, in various locations. Some of our outreach events have included senior farmer market coupons, energy assistance enrollment events, Medicare open enrollment events. We also receive 311 calls, and we receive referrals from the city. The Levy Center has been an ongoing partner that generously allows us to have meetings in their space. The Grandparents Raising Grandchildren program, Low Vision Support Group, and Caregiver Support Group all meet at Levy monthly. Our older adults benefit specialists support 6 volunteers in the office here, and they help residents secure benefits through different programs such as Benefits Access, Medicare, energy assistance. We completed 265 energy assistance applications last fiscal year in this office. We help people also get food stamps and other public benefits. Our older adults benefits specialist helps low-income seniors identify and obtain benefits. And the older adults benefits specialist is scheduled in this office 2 days a week. I think the combination of our office here and all the various services we provide, seeing people in their homes and in the hospitals and nursing homes, is it provides a unique showing of North Shore Senior Center within Evanston and provides great value to the city and to the residents. We see people in their homes. We also work with people to provide case management services, caregiver support, respite, support groups, benefits assistance, and we enjoy collaborating with city staff to make sure, and other social services providers within the community, to make sure we're maximizing services for city residents in an effective manner.
And behavioral health will be talked about by Tish.
Good evening. I'm short, and I'm Tish Rudnicki, the Executive Director at Do This, North Shore Senior Center. This is my first opportunity to address this group, but even though I've only been at North Shore for 10 months, I know how grateful we are to partner with the city and for your ongoing support. I'm here to talk about the behavioral health application that we've made to the Mental Health Board. This will be the third year. North Shore Senior Center, as Kathy said, meets the needs of older adults through a variety of programs and services wherever that person's needs happen to fall on the aging well continuum. Some of those older adults struggle with the sense of loss and grief that it can accompany growing older. We realized that there was a need that wasn't being met as well as we'd like to see it met, so we created and have continued to work on developing our senior options, which is a subsidiary of North Shore Senior Center. It is, in addition to behavioral health services, it provides daily money management, care management, and guardianship services. And it operates more on a fee-for-service basis than our state-funded programs through senior and family services. For the counseling services in particular, both Medicare and supplemental insurance can be billed when appropriate, and we also have a sliding scale for those in need without coverage. The center's licensed practitioners treat primarily depression, anxiety, and adjustment disorders with consultation from psychiatrists and psychologists. It provides these services either in our main office in Northfield or in the senior's home. And 95% of the Evanston residents that we see in their homes, which decreases the barriers that they have to obtaining care, and really which it's part of where the gap was in service, was getting mental health services to seniors in their home. So we are able to do that. We measure outcomes of the work that we're doing through the patient health questionnaire. So we administer that questionnaire. It's a depression screening tool at the start of service and then as they approach the end of service. So far, we've seen positive outcomes in everyone that we've served, which is incredible. I come from Kenneth Young Center, which is a mental health center, so I know how important it is to really measure people's progress, and so we're really focusing on that. How many service hours? I noticed in you were wondering how many service hours the grant can provide, and on average, we're seeing them 15 or more sessions, which essentially breaks down to about $33 a session for the city, which is a bargain for mental health services, sadly. And I think it's really the most important thing that I think we can do is help people deal with their depression and their anxiety in a way that allows them to re-engage in the community. Because I think someone else mentioned it tonight, isolation and loneliness are really what drives so many of the chronic illnesses that seniors are experiencing. My favorite quote about that is that loneliness is the fertilizer of so many chronic diseases, and I think that's absolutely true. So what we're trying to do is really reach people to help them re-engage in the community here. Your investment in helping us offset the cost of our salaries will allow us to invest in our organization in other areas so that our behavioral health counselors can focus on providing service and not generating more referrals and growing a program. We'd like to shift that to our marketing, which would allow our behavioral health therapists to provide more service in the community. Questions?
Great. Any questions on any of the 3 programs?
Tisha,
All great programs.
just looking at the budget for the behavioral health one, the last one, for 10,000. Seeing it's okay, you don't have to look.
Okay. That's not in my brain.
Just think it's very impressive that your revenue has jumped up so much from last year. Like it's nearly 400%.
Yeah, we're really working on growing that program.
Yeah.
And because we see a need across the board, and I think not only we've been able to generate foundation support and other support for the program, which has really helped as well.
What did you guys do differently?
Well, I think you all know, many of you have met Liz Gordon, who was the recently retired, not retired, she's moving, unfortunately, so it's our loss. I'm sure she'll find a new gig in North Carolina. But I think Liz's focus and her energy and her guidance for the team that was in place really helped them. She'd only been there 2 or 3 years, so we're getting to see the fruits of all the labors that she put into it.
That's pretty significant. Yeah.
Hopefully we'll come back next year and it will continue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And wrapping up tonight, we're going to hear about Impact Behavioral Health Partners 2 programs, employment services and clinical services. Welcome. 2 of your programs, I shouldn't say that they're only 2. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for taking the time and hearing from us and for sticking through to the end. I appreciate it. My name is Kristen Johans, and I am the Director of Clinical Services and Quality Assurance at Impact Behavioral Health Partners. And I am here with my colleague, Anna Sack, who is the manager of the employment program. We are here from Impact Behavioral Health Partners, and we are located at 2100 Ridge Avenue in Suite G320, just across the hall, here in Evanston. Our website is www.impactbehavioral.org, and our phone number is 847-866-2977. My email is kjohanns@impactbehavioral.org, and Anna's is asack@impactbehavioral.org. So I'd first like to thank the Mental Health Board and the Cdbg for your continued support over the years of our programs and our agency. Your support has allowed Impact to continue providing such vital services to the community and those in need, and we're really appreciative of it. We're here to talk about we're requesting funds from the Mental Health Board for our clinical services program and funds from Cdbg for our employment services program. So I'll talk a little bit about our clinical program and then I'll hand it over to Anna, who will talk more in depth about the employment program. Our clinical services program focuses on providing individualized and person-centered mental health support to adults with chronic mental health conditions in order to manage their recovery, attain their personal goals, and live a meaningful life in the community. Our clinical program is comprised of 5 master's level clinicians, a nurse, a benefits specialist, and a contract psychiatrist. The majority of the services that we provide are home-based and range anywhere from case management and skills training to more traditional counseling and therapy, as well as more specialized trauma-based therapies such as EMDR. We individualize our services to meet the needs of the participants that we work with, meaning we can scale back our services when participants are doing well and need less support, but we also can scale them up in frequency when our participants are in need of more support at that time. And we utilize evidence-based practices such as trauma-informed care, harm reduction, and a housing-first model to provide clinically appropriate services. And with the support of our clinical services, we see that our participants are able to demonstrate progress in housing stability, symptom management, and symptom reduction, improved relationships and social dynamics and family relationships, improved implementation of their coping skills, and overall improvements in their quality of life. So the generous support of the Mental Health Board funding over the years has allowed us to maintain a full-time nurse on staff in our clinical program. And having a nurse as part of our interdisciplinary team is such a vital component of providing well-rounded and comprehensive services to our participants. Many of our participants have extremely complex needs, such as a combination of mental health needs, physical health needs, substance abuse needs, as well as significant trauma histories. And many of our participants that come into our agency have experienced extensive years of homelessness, which often is coupled with inadequate medical care over those years as well. So our nurse is able to meet with our participants individually upon intake to develop a baseline assessment of their medical and their physical health needs, identifying needs that are their need and for connections to their medical providers in the community, as well as exploring areas for improving healthy habits. Our nursing services are individualized and person-centered as well, and they range from basic vital screenings to education and referrals to actual support during appointments and procedures. Our nurse assists many participants with communicating effectively with medical providers, with learning how to accurately share medical concerns, and with understanding treatment recommendation as well as test results. And our nurse plays a large role in medication management and understanding for many of our participants, as well as being a liaison between the pharmacy, the medical providers, and the participants when issues do arise. It's well documented that the lifespan of an individual with a severe mental illness is shorter than compared to the general population, and that there is a high comorbidity rate between individuals with mental illness and physical illness. And so this fact demonstrates how vital it is to have a trained staff assisting with physical wellness in conjunction to the mental wellness, the housing stability, and the employment security that our agency focuses on. And then we feel that our clinical services addresses 3 of the 4 funding priorities that the Mental Health Board developed, such as by providing long-term mental health services, case management, and stable housing for marginalized populations. And we feel that with your continued support, we'll be able to continue providing such important and needed services for the community. So I will hand it over.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me here tonight. Like Kristen stated, my name is Anna Sack, and I'm the new Employment Program Manager at Impact. And our employment program is funded by the Community Development Block Grant. And with that support, we've been able to consistently grow the capacity of our program while maintaining the excellent quality of our services. We expect to continue the growth through the development of new partnerships, such as the collaboration we have developed with Erie Family Health Centers. Impact will be working closely with Erie's behavioral health team to provide employment services to Erie patients. Erie Center in Evanston will be the focal point of this new partnership. To reflect this anticipated growth, we have increased our proposed outcomes from last year. In 2020, we believe we will engage at least 900 employers, which will be an increase of 100 from last year, in order to find a good job match for all of our participants. And we support at least 45 participants, which is an increase of 5 from last year, in retaining their employment for 90 days or more. And kind of reflecting on fiscal year 2019, we increased the number of participants who received employment services by 23%. We maintained a placement rate of 68%, and the average for the nation is 48%, so we were well above that. 87% of those maintained their employment for 90 days, and then 77% maintained their employment for 6 months. So those are just kind of a couple just facts of our program that I wanted to share with you guys, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions? Thank you for your work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think that concludes our presentations. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank everyone for the work that you're doing. I will say that this is probably, this process, these meetings, they're my favorite meetings because it's just an excellent reminder of how much incredible work is going on in our community. And, you know, I realize that we're just a small part of much of it, but, to be able to help facilitate this work makes me feel good, but it just makes me feel great to be part of a community that cares so deeply about the rest of our city. So I'm grateful for that. So thank you all. We have one short item on the agenda. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I did just want to draw people's attention to this. This is on page 153 of our packet. But I think the news and news cycles like to focus on who tweeted what, but quietly behind the tweets, there are things like a proposed rule change with the rules relating to the Fair Housing Act, and you'll see in here is a letter from a housing forum, which is a group of cities, including Chicago. But they're objecting to this rule change, but this proposed rule change is really a big step backwards in fair housing, almost kind of like allowing aspects of redlining to creep back into our what we're doing, and maybe somebody might accuse me of overstating, but I don't think I'm overstating. So it's just important to be aware of these things, these kinds of things going on. So if you are inclined, there's contact information for the representative of HUD. Feel free to reach out to them on your own, but this is just something that I think we should also be mindful of when we're dealing with our community partners who are addressing housing needs, particularly with regard to fairness and discrimination. These are big deals, and they're quietly happening without much fanfare. So I think it's important to just draw attention to those things. And next mental health board meeting is the 16th, I think.
Correct.
And CDBG, we're going to want to talk a little bit about our scheduling, but you don't probably want to listen to us talk about our scheduling. So if you want to adjourn yours and head out, we're going to talk about some dates. But so did you want to adjourn your?
I do have a quick comment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, just first, thank you all for the service that you provide. That was the volunteer hours. One of the things that I mentioned throughout our meeting while in Wilson is that I'm really starting to focus on our non-for-profits and the attention and prioritizing of our Evanston residents. When we look at a lot of these percentages in the summary, and granted it's case by case, I just want to see a better representation of the amount of dollars, particularly like overall taxpayer dollars, when we consider your board, our board, that we're providing and making sure that our Evanston residents are getting the services that they need. I mean, this year we're fortunate enough we're not going to lay off any staff. We're also not going to cut any services, but for everyone sitting around the table, we're going to raise our property taxes. And so if we're going to continue to fund these services, let's make sure that our community is benefiting from it. And so I think it's a much broader discussion, more than we can tackle tonight, but I'm saying to you to please pay attention to that as you are having your one-on-one conversations and through your participation with these groups, and I'll definitely be following up with our staff. So thank you again for all the hard work that you do throughout the year.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I get a motion to adjourn the mental health board?
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.